Last year, in our My Calling series, Trevor Tolly got started, and those of us that were there that morning, when I asked would we be interested in Trevor finishing what he started, the vote was pretty significant in favor of doing that. So Trevor is back today, and as I was listening to Amy's sermon and thinking about what we see and what we don't, and there's a prayer in the Wednesday night service about how we start journeys that we don't know how they're going to end. I'm thinking with the story that you started last time, with your athletic career and working as a police officer and all of that, that this chapter wasn't something you had in mind along the way. And then I was thinking this morning, how is it that Trevor's here? Is it only that he fell in love with a girl from Minnesota who was living in South Carolina and talked about moving back here? Or do we see not only that at work, but God's hand at work? That's kind of what my calling is all about, right? What do we see and how do we see it? And in the things that we are involved in, work, retirement, personal relationships, volunteer for a paycheck, whatever it might be, how do we see God's hand at work? So that's enough of an intro, Trevor. We're all yours, and it's good to have you back up in front here.
Well, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll apologize up front. I had kind of some sinus congestion going on here. But for those of you that weren't here the last time, I'll just kind of give a brief introduction or rundown of kind of my career and experience. I currently work at Northeast Metro 916. It's a sub-district here, and it's kind of hard to narrow down the area. We get kids busting from so many different places. But my building is actually located at Whitefield Lake High School, the South Campus that has the juniors and seniors right up McKnight here. We actually have a building right that's connected to the back of the school. It's kind of just a circular building connected to the back of the school by the football field. I also coach football at the University of Wisconsin River Falls campus.
For a while.
For a little while.
Never again.
There might be some change for that. It's been a rough, tough year.
This will be a tag team presentation there, right?
There's a lot of long hours in college football. And I don't really see the boys or my wife that often. Maybe Saturday evening after our game. That's about it. I'm gone all day Sunday too. So, but we'll get into that later. But
that's a private matter.
Yeah. A little bit about me. I played football at the University of South Carolina back in 2003. I left in 2005. Had some knee issues for a little over 2 years. While I was there, I got the scholarship pulled away. Ended up quitting school. I just couldn't take it anymore, not being able to play and having to be there. So I kind of got depressed about it and left. But I am currently in school at the University of Minnesota right now. I am 20 credits away from finishing my bachelor's degree. And after that, in 2007, I was hired by the North Charleston Police Department, and I met this lovely young lady after I graduated from the academy.
How did you meet her? Did you have to stop her car or anything?
Another personal
I don't want to go there.
Well, okay, I'll be nice about it. She was celebrating with some friends, and I was celebrating graduating the academy.
Okay.
And we were all in one area, and
It was a bar, it's okay.
she bumped into me. Literally, she bumped into me. I was actually walking to go grab a drink with my cousin. She bumped into me. She said she did it on purpose, but I think it was an accident.
Yeah. And look what you got.
Right. So I worked for the police department till 2012, when my wife decided she wanted to move back to Minnesota. She brought me here in May of 2011. It was gorgeous here. We went home and she said, "Do you want to move?" I said, "Sure. That place is nice. I like it. It's not as hot as South Carolina. It's nice." I had already talked to the police chief over here in North St. Paul and got a job lined up for when I moved, and I came up the following year in 2012 in April. Had a great spring. I was like, this is awesome. Got a job at North St. Paul Police Department. This is great. Summertime rolled around, started coaching football. Like, how can it get any better? And then, what was it?
October.
Middle of September, the end of September. All this white stuff. What is this? It doesn't snow down south. So, that was a little different for me. Wasn't so happy at that point. Yeah. So I moved, when we moved up here, started working for the North St. Paul Police Department. I worked in investigations for a little over 6 months, I think. At that time, I sat down with my wife and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. North Charleston is a rough place. Sort of like Minneapolis times 5, maybe 10. I think this year alone they've already had 20 homicides. It's bad. My first couple years there were unbelievable. I think I've seen more in my first year on the job than probably a lot of officers see in their career. It was rough for me. I did enjoy it. You get that satisfying feeling of making a difference. I worked with a lot of youth, kind of in the project areas, some of the not so good areas, kind of predominantly black areas, not very nice. But to be able to go there and show them something different, than what they see every day, and other than the people that they see us chasing down the street or, chasing in the car, and to be able to talk to them and kind of share my story, as far as how, I took a different path growing up, just kind of giving that, sending that positivity their way, just there's other things than fast money. I was able to do that here. But I just felt like I was ready to coach football full time. It's kind of my wife will probably agree with me. That's a big part of my life besides them. Football is a really big part of my life. It has it changed my life when I was younger. I hated school. I hated high school. I wanted to quit. I attempted to quit a couple times, but my football coach wouldn't let me quit. He picked me up in the mornings. I had his class first period. As soon as I got to school, I had to see the head coach. There were days where I didn't show up, and his second period was the planned period. So he would leave school, come to my house, knock on my door, and tell me, you got 10 minutes to get in the car. Be dressed. You got 10 minutes. And I knew it wasn't a joke. I respected him that much. And 10 minutes, I managed to brush my teeth, pick out clothes, grab my books, and be in the car. Once I had a successful year, my senior year, I decided to buckle down, and I kind of realized, what that meant to me. Coming from him, and that's kind of been my purpose the last few years. trying to give that back to kids. That's why my wife said I won't be at River Falls much longer, because I'm actually looking into being a high school head coach.
All right.
That's kind of what I want to do now. But I started working at St. Paul High School August of 2012. I left the police department in July. I started working as a education assistant with EBD kids. That's the emotional behavioral disorder. High functioning kids, really bad attitudes. That's what EBD is. Kind of your typical, I guess your typical teenager that hates school, hates the teachers, wants to hang out with his friends all the time. They don't want to do work. And every response to you is a swear word. That's EBD. EBD is kind of a hard thing for me to grab a hold of, because I personally feel like EBD has just been a lack of discipline for them. They kind of grew up doing whatever they want to do, saying whatever they want to say, having a lack of respect. I think other psychologists and stuff like, they would disagree with me, obviously, but that's just kind of how I feel, because at times, you know, when you talk to them and you kind of develop that relationship where you show them some respect, and in return, you know, they talk to you with respect, and I feel like maybe if they had that when they were younger, they wouldn't be here, because they're not stupid kids. You know, EBD kids they're moved to a different part of the school because of their behavior, because of the fact that they want to wander around and they want to leave class. And over there, they're high schoolers, so they know the only thing you could do with them is basically suspend them. You can't really do anything. Now, when I was younger, our teachers used to have a little switch. They used to get a little switch, you know? You used to get hit with a switch, and, you know, your parents were okay with it, you know? Can't do that anymore. There's a whole bunch of issues that go into that. I'm sure you guys know all about it, but, so, I'll move on from that, but I left there, for financial reasons, and I moved over to 916. I got hired in December of 2012. Excuse me. I actually started in January after the winter break. I had no idea what I was walking into at 916. I just knew it was a secondary program, and they had kids with autism and EBD, OCD, LD, DCD, ADHD, all kind of Ds. I had no idea. And I had no idea what these things were. Because like even when I was in high school, high schoolers that had these disabilities were in a different building. Still on our campus, just in a different building. So I grew up with no knowledge of this. Even at North, that was kind of my first introduction to kids with special needs. So when I got hired at 916, I was probably the biggest guy there. And the first thing I saw when I walked in was a kid that was 6'8", and pushing 370. And I looked at the principal and I said, "Are you kidding me?" Now, I said it jokingly, because one of the things that kids with these disabilities, they're nonverbal. So, at that time, my son was still young, nonverbal. When he wanted something, it was a hit or a grab. And my thought was, I cannot have this 6'8" man, 370, hitting me, because he's nonverbal, and that's exactly how they communicate. And one of the challenges is when you get hired, is that's what they tell you. You have to. I can't coach you on how to do this, is what she told me. You have to figure out a way to communicate with kids that are nonverbal. And I was saying to myself, there's no way. How can I do that? There's 80 kids here. How can I do that? And it was my first year. My first year was rough. It was really bad. Got hit a lot, got scratched up a lot, got bit a lot. But I figured it out. Ultimately, I figured it out. It was towards the end of the year, but I figured it out. And we offer summer school for them just for 1 month through the month of July. And I worked summer school my first year there, and we got a new principal at that point. She came in towards the end of the year. Summer was basically her first jump into our program. She came from a different program with the same group of kids. She approached me and she said, "I put together a behavior team, and I want you to run it." And I said to myself, I said, "Great. Now I get to jump back in the pool of 80 kids that I have to deal with 80 behaviors, and not just, the 7 that are in my class." I told her yes. I know, it sounds crazy, but I like the challenge. I don't mind taking on the challenge, and so I said yes. I said sure. So I did. First couple months, I was wishing I changed my mind. But ultimately, I figured it out. I've been there for a little over 4 years now, and I've been the behavior team leader for 3.5. And I love my job. I love those kids. And now Tuesdays and Thursdays are my worst days at work. Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, I can coast through the day with no problem. We don't know what it is about Tuesday and Thursday, but Tuesday and Thursday, our school gets turned upside down. From the time I walk in the door, or the time the kids walk in the door at 7:40, to the time they walk out at 2:05.
Have you told them that?
The kids?
Yeah.
No.
They're gonna make Wednesday and Monday and
I'd rather have more positive days than negative days. So I haven't told them. But
don't tell them that.
so a little bit about the behavior part of my job. I carry around all of us carry radios. Whenever there's a student that has a behavior, they call my radio. I have to go to the classroom. Depending on what's happening, we use a system called Professional Crisis Management. PCM is a procedure that's on the national level that a lot of schools with special needs kids, this is what they use. PCM, I train in PCM every 6 months. I have to get an 85 on my test to be recertified and be able to use these procedures, and if you don't, then you're not allowed to work. You can work, but you can't do my job. I wouldn't be able to do my job. I would have to go and do office work or something. I don't know. But PCM allows me to determine if I need to remove a kid in the classroom or not. It goes past annoyance. Sometimes the teachers aren't trained in PCM. They're not allowed to be, per our district. Some of the staff in the classroom are, but they only go up to P1. I go up to P3.5. they added some more stuff, so I'm like P3.5 before you get to 4. So when I enter a classroom, I have a thing that we're taught, it's called CASH. And CASH stands for continuous aggression, continuous, hold on, let me flush it here.
You pay in cash.
Yeah,
No,
I
I'm
would.
just kidding.
Oh, sorry, I got it. It's continuous aggression, continuous self-injury, and continuous high magnitude disruption. Now, the high magnitude, continuous aggression, you all get that, right?
No,
So,
sorry,
no,
what's continuous?
continuous aggression means,
Somebody's hitting you?
if I walk into the classroom and there's a student that's trying to hit you and he won't stop,
Okay,
or if he's trying to hit me when I enter the classroom and he won't stop, I can remove him from the classroom at that point. We have probably 85% of our kids are self-injurious, and it's to me it's unbelievable if you see some of the things that they do. They bang their heads on things. They hit their heads like really intensely with their hands. I mean, we have kids that they walk around, they have lumps because it's just a thing where they bite themselves, and they've actually they've bitten in certain areas or pinched in certain areas so much to where the skin has actually developed scar tissue on top of it, so it's extremely hard, and they bite that, and that's the self-injury. And the high magnitude disruption is just yelling or banging on something, flipping tables, slamming lockers, anything to throw off the rest of the kids in the classroom. High magnitude disruption. I can remove them at that point. And we remove them by using our PCM procedures. And this is where I'm going to demonstrate on my wife.
A question, Trevor.
Yes.
Are
And
they?
if you have any questions, just jump in.
Are they in a regular classroom?
For us?
No.
Yes.
When you go get a kid out, has he been in my classroom and doing this? Is that what?
Right. He will be in his classroom
Okay.
doing this. Yes.
Okay.
But this is a special needs classroom versus the
Right.
regular
All of our
mainstream.
classrooms, we're not connected to the mainstream building at all.
Okay.
We have locked doors that we can only get through with key cards that only staff have, and our kids are cut off from the mainstream building. We're technically not even a part of White Bear.
Okay.
Our district just owns this building. They buy or rent this building for our school.
So if there's a math class, there may be 5 kids in there, right? Or what?
Well, we don't have subjects.
You don't?
We don't teach subjects.
Okay.
We do more of the fine motor skill work. And we have one classroom where the kids can they read at like a 4th or 5th grade level.
Okay.
But they have other disabilities that prevent them from being successful in the mainstream school. So we have 10 classrooms, all special needs. Our school is a big circle. When you walk in the front door, it's a big circle, and all the classrooms are on the outside of the circle. But with PCM,
You have to show a high magnitude disruption.
if I'm normally by myself probably 80% of the day. There's another lady that is on the team with me. We had a couple people, but they decided to drop it back. So it's just the 2 of us. And she actually helps out in the classroom. But I do have other people that will come out. We have other PCM certified staff that will come out and assist me if they're able to. It's probably an additional 10 people. And sometimes, you can get maybe 2 or 3 that'll come out. And especially with certain students, we have to have at least 4. We have, he's not there anymore. He actually passed away.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a couple of years ago. But we have certain kids where it's known when they need help, they say who the kid is, and we got 4 guys, including myself, that will go to that classroom. We don't take any chances. They're big kids, strong kids, and fast. So if I go in and I'm by myself and I go to remove a kid, I use a procedure called a one-arm wraparound. So this is where I put their arm across their chest and I grab the wrist here, and you kind of stay away from like any joints and anything. So if they struggle with you, you know, it's not like they're not pulling on joints to dislocate anything. That's a big part of PCM. So I grab like right above the wrist area, and then I have my hand right here on the tricep, and I put my head down about right here. Now at this point, I can walk them out of the classroom and to wherever I need to go at that point. And if I get out, my main goal is to just get out of the classroom. The staff will lock the door behind me, and 7 out of 10 times I'll release them in the hallway. And then kind of reassess the situation from there. Because sometimes if you just remove them from the situation, they get that block, so they automatically calm down. They're not obsessed with whatever it was before, because now they can't get at it, they can't see it. So sometimes I just let them go, sometimes they'll run, sometimes they won't, sometimes they'll try to attack me, sometimes they won't, sometimes they'll sit on the bench and we can just have a conversation, and 10 minutes later they can go back to class. Now if it's 2 of us, or 3 of us, we transport kids 2 at a time, and we can either transport them like this, which is called our wrist tricep procedure, and there'll be another person on this side, and we can just walk, or we have one where we probably do 90% of the time. It's called a Sunday stroll. So with the Sunday stroll, you kind of, depending on the height of the kid, normally I have to crouch down, but you go back to grabbing right below the wrist here, and you take this arm and you kind of wrap it around, and you want to get your fist up here by your shoulder. Okay, so you want to keep your head out of the way, because a lot of them will swing, and we got kids that wear helmets, and
Whoa.
trust me, that's not fun. I've been hit multiple times with helmets. So you want to kind of stay down as far as possible and away from them. There'll be somebody on the other side doing the same thing, and then we can walk with them to wherever we need to go.
Do their legs move? Or you're lifting them?
No, they walk, and if they don't walk, we release them. We don't drag them or we don't press it.
Okay.
So if they decide not to walk, and a lot of them don't walk most of the time, they'll fall to their knees. We just let them go down to their knees, but we keep this. No, you don't. But we keep our hands here while they're down on their knees, and if they decide to go all the way down, then we just let them go. And then basically we step back, we let whatever happened here happen. If they get up, then we go back in and we start here first. A lot of times, sometimes the older kids, when you go to transport them, 2 people, they start to kick you kind of in the shin area. And a PCM procedure that we use is called a vertical immobilization. So at that point, no, you so we hold back into this part of it, okay, and then there's a third person that comes down and around below the knees and above the knees, and they hold them. And we can do that as long as we need to.
Do you carry them also?
No, we just stand there.
Just stand there?
Yep, we have to
until
stand still.
subsided?
Yeah. Then if they start sitting on you, then you can release them, which they figured out. Yeah, they figured things out. So they do that. We have we have a procedure where we do actually lay it down. And
Course pretty clean.
So do you ever have to restrain them? I mean, with cuffs or straps or?
we don't do that. They, from my understanding, they stopped doing that a few years ago. We can only do hands-on things because you have to be able to release them, so you can't walk away from them and leave them strapped in somewhere. Couple of stories I read from a while ago. We have what we call quiet rooms. A large quiet room, a small quiet room, and inside the quiet room is a locked room. So kids that are just not able to calm down or are very, very, very high flyers, the more aggressive kids, we can take to this locked room. It's a padded room with a window on the door that we can see in. They can't see out. They can't see us because sometimes they might obsess over a staff that's there. And as long as they can see that person, they're going to continue to be aggressive, trying to get through the door to get at that person. So they can't see out. But with that, so with this room, there's a button, big silver button. You push it, pulls the magnets in, the doors stay closed. The minute you let go of this button, the magnets release and the door opens. So you can't. A long time ago, they used to have keys. So people would lock the door with the key and walk out until the kid calms down. And they actually had, so some years ago, but they actually had an incident where they forgot the kid was in there because they left the room. That's when that stopped. So the minute you let go of this button, the door opens, and they can come out, or you can go in, whatever. So that's, we do that a lot. I know it sounds bad. It does. When I was interviewing and she told me that's what happens, I was just like, oh, that's pretty bad. That's messed up. Sounds bad, yeah.
Sounds like jail.
Yeah, I thought it sounds like jail. I was working at a jail at that time. That's what we do in jail. You put them in this room and you lock the door, and you can see them and they can't see you.
Well, how long do you have to sit with your hand on that button though?
You have to stand there until they sit down on the floor.
However long it is.
Do they know that?
We tell them that,
Oh,
yes.
okay. Because they could be standing for a long time.
Well, we use a lot of picture symbols.
Okay.
And these picture symbols have those instructions for the kids that understand picture symbols, but the other kids that can follow a verbal direction, we also show them the picture symbol, but we also verbalize what they need to do. And some of them can talk back, and you can tell them, hey, you need to go set the bag. No, I don't want to. You can't tell me what to do. Some of them have that much vocabulary as to where they can verbalize that. And then when they're done, they'll go sit down. And when you open the door, it's like nothing ever happened. They get up, they're smiling, we're talking about whatever, some cartoon maybe, I don't know. And we're walking back to class.
Okay, with, the way the schools are now where teachers can't touch kids or nobody can touch kids, do you get repercussions from their families for
Some.
holding them back?
Some, yep. That's probably our more popular topic at meetings, is getting yelled at by parents.
Food.
But the thing is, they're briefed of all this stuff before the kid comes to school. They're allowed to, they actually take a tour for, it's a couple hours. Because that's all you need. And you'll see something in a couple hours, trust me, and it never fails. So they're at the school for a meeting. If there's a call, our principal will bring them out to the hallway so they can see what we do and how we handle certain situations. I'm always at an intake meeting, and in the intake meeting, I actually tell the parent what we do or what we will do with this kid when she tells me his behavior. We just got a new kid, we actually have a new kid that starts Monday. I was in his intake meeting last week. He's nonverbal, and he hits when he's upset. He does have continuous aggression issues, and he does obsess over things. So one of the things that I pointed out in the meeting is that if he obsesses over, a lot of them obsess over kind of cartoon stuff on the iPad. They like iPads. They like to watch cartoons or their shows or whatever they want to do on the iPad. He obsesses over that. So when it would be time for him not to have the iPad, we're going to run into an issue. He's going to be aggressive. He'll probably hit the person that takes it. And one of the things I told her was, if that continues, we transport him out of the classroom. I showed her exactly what I showed you guys, how we would do it. And I took her to where he would go if we get to the hallway and his aggression, he's not, minimizing his aggression towards staff. This is where he would go. Now, once we get to this point, I had to tell her, if he continues, we're in this room, this is where he would go. And this is what we would do. And I went into the room and I had somebody lock the door. She looked into the room. It's all padded except for the floor. The floor is just like this. But it's all padded, and we kind of went through kind of everything that happens, everything that he has to do. He's another kid that understands the pick symbols. So we told her everything that we needed to tell her, and I can guarantee you, when it happens to him, we'll hear about it from her. It never fails. It's just one of those things, and I know it's tough, but I personally couldn't imagine my kid going through that, and if another thing that happens is when we put them in a hold on the mat, okay, we have a mat that's 6.5 feet long, 2 inches thick, and 4.5 feet wide. This is a standard PCM mat. We order it straight from them. Everything we do with PCM comes straight from the company, because if we get in trouble and we get sued, we have to go to court. We have to say exactly what we did, and we have to, if we did not follow the PCM procedure, they will come to court and say that's not how we teach it, and we would get in trouble. So we have to follow these guidelines, which we do every single day, in case something like that happens. And a couple years ago, we almost ran into that situation because there was a kid that we have to prone all the time. Which we, lay them down on the mat. People, there's 2 kind of on the arm area and 1 on the legs, and they just cross their legs and they kind of hover over the top of them. But with the struggle comes bruising on the arm, because we can't allow them to get up. We're doing the procedures that we're trained to do, but at the same time it's all this trauma to the arm. So they go home with bruises, and the next day, you could believe, parents bringing them in, coming through the door yelling, accusing us of abusing the kids. I mean, we go through this all the time. So it happens daily. You could probably get that email, once a week.
Okay, so if they do this at school, they're doing it at home.
They do, yes. Yep. But a lot of them...
So I, as a parent, would be extremely grateful to have some helpful hints and some respite. So I guess I don't quite understand. Do you help them also figure out how to do this at home when things go crazy?
We try. Parents don't want to be told what to do with their kid at home.
Oh,
That's kind of how, yeah. I mean, in all honesty, that's kind of what they say to us. But they do it at home, and probably in the high 80% of them live in group homes. So they leave school and they go to a group home with, 8 kids just like them. And they basically have, 10 people working on the shift.
And do they follow through with the same kind of type of procedures there?
Yes.
In a group home?
The group homes are better about working with us than the parents, because a lot of times with us, we'll go through, when we get new kids, we'll go through a couple of weeks where it's just complete chaos. All kind of behaviors, all kind of problems. But it's like anything else. If we stick to it and we show them like, hey, this is how it's going to be. Nothing's going to change. After a while, your behaviors they gradually decrease, and then sometimes they just stop altogether. So then the group home, we send notes home every day. Like, oh, we had a great day. Or we send notes home, well, hey, we had a little issue here. But when they get consistent good notes, they want to hold a meeting with us to figure out what we're doing. That they're having such a great day at school, then when we get home, you know, we're running into issues. But then when they come back to school, we don't have issues anymore. But then when they go home, they got issues again. So they'll come and try to figure out what we're doing. And a lot of them will take what we do at school and they'll do it at home. And they won't have any issues. So that's, yeah, they're very, they were concerned about helping them. And most of the parents, just because the parents kind of, you know, they want to raise their own kids. Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, because I want to switch the subject.
Okay. My mother for many years taught SLBP, and I don't ever remember her talking about violence in her classroom. She taught
SLBP.
special learning and behavioral problems. At what level do your students function at?
Less than kindergarten, most of them.
They're pretty, same thing, they're
Yeah.
just bigger.
Yep.
I've had-
So they're basically dealing with your 3-year-old that's 6'5", or 6'1".
For years she did it, and I never remember anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about anything before this, because this is all I know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when I got into it, this is kind of how it started for me.
Now, this is this has been, when I was a kid, so that's a long time back.
That's like 100 years ago.
Well, 80. And you never mentioned anything about violence. I do remember going into one classroom and it was just a steady roar of blood, but that was
Yeah.
Minneapolis Public, probably 30 kids.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why are they to be so violent?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's just, and a lot of it's just trying to communicate. So as they're trying to communicate, you're standing there
Okay.
with this blank look on your face, like, I don't really know what you want. And then you're like, can you show me? Or, you know, basically I'm talking to your 3-year-old, like what you would tell, or your 2-year-old that can't talk. But I do it with my kid. Can you show me? Take me to it. You know, and with them, that's even more frustrating. Because they know what they're telling you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you this, it's right here, just get it, or do it, you know, and you don't, and it's a smack. Yeah, it's just frustrating.
How old are these kids that you're working with?
And my building is all high school kids.
Okay, so
So
what's
they're about
the future?
14.
What do you see for them in the future?
Some of them they stay in our program until they're 21. So some of them they'll graduate from our program and they'll go to an adult program. So they'll just be in a bigger place with more adults, same staff, same kind of day.
Sheltered workshop.
Yep.
Are these the kids that would have been institutionalized in the past?
Probably.
Okay.
Because people probably would have no idea what was wrong with them. They just thought they were crazy.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, what do you think about, there's sort of a movement now to, some people think that we should we should allow our teachers to have guns and things in some schools to help with some of the behavioral issues?
I don't
think that's not her behavior issue.
No.
Probably not in his.
Yeah, in my school that would be.
No.
But in other schools, my personal opinion is I don't know why a teacher needs a gun.
Yeah.
Why can't you have other people
Right.
that, you know, that train daily in this type of thing hired to be in the school? I don't understand. I mean, as a teacher, for me personally, it's more important for you to protect the kid in there to get them someplace safe than to leave them somewhere and go out with a gun and try to handle something. I think they should just have trained people at the school. We had off-duty police officers that worked at school, or SROs that work at school every day. There you go. You don't need a teacher. You got school resource officer. let them walk around. Any issues, let them handle it. They got the quickest line to other cops, because they're friends with Motorola. Let them radio and bring the cavalry. You know, I think I don't, because then I personally feel, just from being a cop, that you start to deal with personal frustration at that point. You might not think clearly versus guys that are put in a situation every day so they know. I've dealt with issues at school when I worked at North Charleston, and you know, we go into a situation and you know, we can better assess the situation because we deal with this kind of stress all the time, versus a teacher who got trained and certified to have a gun, but in a 30-year career they might have one incident where they had to actually go out and something could have went terribly wrong because they've never been in a situation before and they probably didn't have to react the way they did. So I just think.
I appreciate your opinion, because you have a unique experience.
Thanks.
I was hoping to sort of shift things a little bit and talk about coaching.
Okay.
What are your goals as a high school football coach for your players that you're involved with? And then I wonder if you also have a thought you'd care to share about should parents let their kids play football these days, or what? I mean, Michelle and I watched the movie on concussions in the NFL, and what are you thinking about that?
Oh, great. You got an extra hour?
I do. I'm punched in.
I'll try to make it quick.
You can go on, but he has to punch out.
When I think about football, for me, as a big life, as a big part of my life, and I feel, I look at my life as kind of like a story. And I said this to my wife probably last week. I talk to her about football every day. Sometimes she's on the computer and her response is like, yep. Get ready, it was a deep conversation. And I look at her and she's, yep. But I look at it as kind of a story. And I was telling her the other day that I've worked really hard to get to college football as a coach. It's extremely hard to do. And I got there last year. And I was there, and we had our ups and downs. I was gone a lot. It took a toll on them, and you know, her and the kids. And when my season was over, I told her, I said, I feel like I'm missing a chapter in my book. And she said, well, what is that? I said, I feel like I would be an awesome head coach at a high school. Just from past experience and what my coaches did for me and how my life changed because of them, I feel like I need to do that. Like, I don't want to write this book of life and then skip this chapter and then get to this point and then go, what if? What if I was a high school coach? Like, how good would I have been? How good would our team be? How I could probably have changed someone's life on this team and prevented them from going down this path, but go down this path, kept them out of jail, and turned them into a great husband or just a great man in general to do something different. And I sat with her and I don't know what, 3-4 months, back and forth every day. I'm going to go coach high school ball, I'm going to be great. Wake up the next morning, I want to stay in college football, I worked too hard to get here, I'm not going back. The next day, I got to find a high school job, I'm going to be a coach, a high school head coach. So I'm in the process of doing it. I've been on several interviews and I've gotten turned down several times, and the response that I get from athletic directors are, your interview was amazing. One of the greatest we've had. But per our teacher contract in the state of Minnesota, high school teachers get first dibs at any open job. And want to type back this long email and just, just kind of dig in and tell them how dumb I think that is, but at the same time, that won't get me anywhere. These guys talk to everybody. The last thing I want is for my name to be going around from school to school and say, hey, if you deny this kid, he's give me this nasty email, and nasty person.
Nasty.
Yeah, that's not me. So, I reply back with a thank you and keep moving forward. So it's been a tough process, just because I just hate to get the email from them about how great it was, and then tell me that we had to offer it to somebody else. So
It'll come.
I'm praying that it does.
Well, it's knowing too what you're capable of doing and the knowledge that you have and the history and the experience that you have and what you can give to these kids in this particular age group. College kids already kind of are established in where they're going to go and what they're going to do, if they're going to move on to the next level or not. But the high school kids, especially the ones that you've been coaching in the past, those are the kids that needed some direction, and they needed somebody to be able to count on, and somebody to believe in them, and somebody to help them get to college. And you've done that for a lot of kids.
Yeah. So my last interview was at Johnson High School.
Woohoo!
Last Tuesday.
And they need you desperately.
And they're announcing whoever they are gonna pick for the head coach on Monday or Tuesday.
Tell them Harding wants you.
So again, I got an email back from their athletic director about how awesome my interview was and how I impressed everybody. So I'm hoping that they want to go in a different direction. I know they've had some tough years over there, but I'm hoping that they want to go in a different direction and that I can be able to change that program. That's the kind of program that I feel like needs me. These kids over there, just not so great attitudes. Just kind of hate to see kids that have the opportunity to go other places just not reach that potential just because of not having the guys to get them there. So I'm hoping that I can get that, and if I don't get that, then I got a shot at Burnsville High School. I talked to their athletic director too, so they're interviewing starting next Monday. He said he would call me back with a date and a time. So if I don't get Johnson, I still got one more shot. If I don't get anything, I'll try again next year. So
if you don't, we stay at River Falls.
I want to stay at River Falls if I don't get anything. And about concussions, concussions, they're a big deal. And statistically, football isn't even the #1 sport where you get a concussion. It's soccer. Football's kind of been under the light of shame because of how violent the sport is and how a lot of people get concussions in football. Soccer, you don't run at the person violently with the intent to hit them. You run at the person violently with the intent to slide and kick the ball away or do something like that. And then, at times you can bang heads, you can fall, you can hit the ground. I think the difference in football is that I'm running at you violently with the intent to knock you out. It's just kind of the football player mentality, Like, I personally don't want to knock you out. Like, I don't want you laying on the ground unconscious. I'm just coming in hard to make a play. I'm being physical, as my coach is telling me to do. It's a physical game. And sometimes the ball carrier will duck his head too, trying to brace for a hit, and you guys just happen to be at the same level, and you hit. I personally think that technology has helped football with the development of new helmets. Zenith is kind of a big leader in the helmet game right now. They actually have a helmet out. We got about 100 of them at River Falls last season, where you put this helmet on, and with your chin strap, you tighten down the padding to your head. You don't tighten, the helmet doesn't get any tighter, the padding gets tighter. So with the hit, it absorbs the head. So you're not getting basically a direct hit from the helmet to the head. So you have to go through all these shocks that are in there before the helmet can even reach the padding. We didn't have any concussions last year. I think nationally, like 3 kids got a concussion in the Zenith helmet last year. They're extremely expensive, but they're proven to be worth it.
We heard about this rule change in the NFL. Talks about targeting,
Yes.
and they call that a lot, and if a player is charged with targeting, he has to leave the field. Does something like that make a difference? This heads up.
Targeting is not my favorite rule.
What exactly is it?
Targeting is when a player, the rule is supposed to be, what the rule states is that if a player launches himself at a person,
Leave your feet.
yep, you leave your feet and you launch at a person and you make helmet to helmet contact or shoulder to helmet contact or any contact with the helmet after launching yourself, that's supposed to be targeting. But they've kind of opened that up a little bit, so it's now any hit to the helmet, we're calling targeting and you're out. You guys watch the Gopher games?
Yes.
Opening day, Gopher Stadium against Oregon State. 3 kids ejected from the game for targeting. Not one hit was a target. By the rule, not one of those 2 hits were targeting. 1 kid had to sit out the rest of the game, got ejected. The other 2 were late in the 4th, so they not only had to sit out the rest of the game, but the next week. For not even breaking the rule. 1 kid, he went down to hit the receiver before the receiver even went down. But then the receiver went down as this kid was already going down to tackle, made helmet-to-helmet contact, he got called for targeting and got kicked off.
It's very subjective. It's whatever
Yeah.
the...
But it's not by the rule. That's why I don't like it. If it was consistent throughout the league, in college, I would be all for it. But it's not.
Yeah,
I don't really like
that. Leaving your feet to hit someone. That was
right. Now if that happens, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Send them out.
Okay, totally different track here. So, what's your bachelor's in?
Sports and recreation management.
So, when you go to a school and apply it directly for your job as coaching, there's no other classroom subjects that you have to cover?
I could be a PE teacher at a high school.
Okay, so do they sometimes group that, or it just depends on the school?
I guess it just kind of depends on what I'm going for, I guess.
Okay.
I would just have to get a teaching license through the state once I get done, and I can teach physical education. But I don't know what I want to do with that yet.
I just wondered, do you see that as a different path to be in the position for when the teachers get the first call on that, to already be in the school?
Yes. Yeah.
But not the path that you're hoping to go?
Right. I mean, I ultimately want to go down a different path, but I mean, I'm willing to go whichever way I need to go to get to wherever I need to go. Any other questions? I don't want to get too late.
I just want to make one statement that I do appreciate hearing what you're saying about what's going on in the schools, although I hate to hear it because, I was thinking back to when I was in middle school, I was a little bit social, and my desk sat right next to my teacher's desk, and I choose to believe that she liked me because I disrupted the class. But that was kind of the naughty things that went on in school, and to know that it's gone so drastic.
I think that part of it is just a little more different. And it goes from, it kind of takes a sidetrack just from, just being a student in high school or middle school with naughty behavior, being funny for your friends and stuff like that, versus just not being able to process this stuff at all. You know what I mean? It's like your behaviors are your behaviors just because you cannot process what's going on in this room. So then I think they take more of a different approach to figure out exactly why this is, or if there is a disability, or if there's a series of tests that go on and they take hours.
But even that, all the schools have policemen in them these days. I mean, that just is so unheard of.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm younger than Jim, but I went to high school a while ago. But it's just sad to know that that's where it is these days.
But I think we're all missing one little thing. A lot of what we see now today is because alcohol and drugs were involved with pregnancies.
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
where all of this, that's why you didn't see that way
Yeah.
back when your mom was a teacher.
And
It's
if you
alcohol
look
and
at,
drugs.
if
that
you look
have
at
really-
some CAT scans or brain scans of some of these kids, I mean, they look bad.
Yeah.
They're terrible. It's awful.
Yeah.
And that's exactly
It's a lot
right.
of fetal
lot of
alcohol,
it,
but I think too,
yeah.
a lot of it is, the foods that we're feeding our kids too.
Oh.
What are the preservatives and the, you know, the things that they don't need to eat, the pesticides and all that kind of stuff, the things that we shouldn't be ingesting, and the mothers are eating it while they're pregnant, and the kids are eating it, 'cause it just becomes part of,
Right.
you know, your
But we don't want to
diet.
forget, some of it's also trauma at a young age.
Right. There's a
Just,
lot of-
we got kids that develop these disabilities from car accidents, falling out of cribs. These
TBI.
those things, yeah. Some of them are like that for those reasons. And I think just naturally, we have kids that develop these issues well into being teenagers. A lady that works with me, her daughter developed like a lump on her brain when she was 11. So now she's in this program because the damage is a part of it. So she can't, her ability to process isn't what it used to be. She was able to maintain, I guess, her intelligence as a 10-year-old. So I mean, when you talk to her, you know you're talking to a 10-year-old, but it takes a while because of the processing part of the brain that's damaged. So once you talk and you repeat it and you kind of sit there for a minute, you know, it's like, oh, okay, then I can talk about it for a quick second. So it's a lot of different things.
The next felon?
We
Out.
we do not.
Okay.
We are allowed to. I'll just give a quick example here. If we have a kid that has a really bad behavior for a day and just we have to call the cops on. I mean, sometimes we have to do that because they then have the ability to call the ambulance and they can take them to the hospital where they can get treatment. So we do have to involve police sometimes. But if we have to go that route, they are suspended for 3 days. And during that time, it's only because we're trying to figure out a different plan for them. So when they come back, we can have this new plan and this new procedure that has to go up the chain for approval, and it takes that much time. So that's the only reason why they'll be removed from a program for a couple of days, just until we find a new plan that we can implement for when they come back.
That's so encouraging.
Yeah, but we don't suspend them for bad behavior. We just we have to try to figure out a way to fix what the issues were, so when you come back, we don't want to have to do that again. So that's the only thing.
More comments, just kind of wrap things up. When Trevor was coaching at North St. Paul High School, the Wickstrom boys were some of his players. Maybe you remember the Wickstrom boys. And couldn't say enough about their freshman football coach. And if you follow North St. Paul High School football at all, you know that the last year or the last two, when did they go to the playoffs?
15.
When Trevor was coaching, that program was on the rise. When Trevor went to River Falls this last year, was a very poor season. It was back to normal.
Defense.
And that, I mean, I think that speaks to what you bring to the coaching profession. And I think that when we think about, it takes a village to raise a child, I want people like this in my village, right? And I think that's part of what this My Calling series is about. Where's the village? Who's in the village that's raising our children, and what's the point? I mean, it's not just to turn somebody into a football player, but to teach them to be a man. Because we're talking football, so we're talking men. But, wouldn't have to, I mean, wouldn't have to be. But then also, I guess I'm sitting here thinking, we voted for the last levy increase in our school district. And part of that's because of, I mean, I'm more appreciative having been in the school for the last few years. But when I think about the front lines, I'm not just thinking about the Ericksons or some of the other teachers at whatever school, but here's somebody else on the front lines of a very challenging situation as well. And that too is part of what the levy increase was for. Because in the school system, thankfully, there has to be room for every child, even though it makes life very challenging. But like you're saying, those kids didn't pick those challenges either, you know, and yet there needs to be a place for them and people for them. So whether it's you got a whistle around your neck and you're hitting the sled with a bunch of kids, or what you do Monday through Friday, and what you do when you go home at night with your wife and children, we're very grateful for that. So next week, Diana Swanson is up front in our My Calling series, and then the week after that, Pat Hagan will be giving a seminar on bass fishing, among other things.
We need to bring a pole or anything?